Bigbossjock radio show. Listeners are encouraged to rise up, confront the U.S. government, kick off the revolution, liberate the Confederate States of America, the Alamo, placed as the capital. Analyst assessment, episode 47. Video being assessed was posted by NBC News. Clip entitled, Watch Live. Trump participates in Immigration and Border Security Roundtable. Posted April 5, 2019. Airtime 52 seconds and 52 minutes? No, 52 minutes and 2 seconds. That's right. Entering into the clip, 23 minutes, 42 seconds. Statement made, Dawn. That's why we stop them right here at the southern border of Mexico, which Mexico is doing. 23, 43. Statement made, Dawn. It starts right here. That's why if we stop them at the southern border of Mexico, which Mexico is doing, Analyst assessment. Note, place to the stated words what was precision time. Take note of the paper flip. Top right hand of the corner, paper position placed in front of Dawn, calls the attention. Viewer takes note. U.S. President facial gesture, eye movement, begins again to read. Pantomime, canned, official document gives official U.S. presidential address. Something such as, today our country, we ceded territory, autonomous territory of California, due to our crisis in the western part of our country, chain of events, which we experienced, territory needed to be ceded. Understand? Look here. Our bank account has no more money. Just couldn't do it. Had to be done. We have no more money. Just couldn't be undone. Can't pay the payments. Interest surpassed the ingresses. Look, you know, we all know, everyone has a bank account. When it's out, it's out. Business is closed. Wasn't much fun. Final address, good luck at the rest. Good luck with the rest. Final address. For a proper introduction, this is Chairman Bob. He'll be taken on the job. We'll explain what went wrong. Further, what is going on. Overdue, here, arrival of the bill. Now time to be gone. Time for the Donald. Be moving on. One last goodbye, just to make known. Really been really nice. Sincerely was a great time. Good night, goodbye. One last final goodbye. Wink of the eye. Wanted to blow kisses. Acted even cry. Entered into the cabin. Took off on the one last fight as U.S. President. Moral of the story. Though, more than likely, there will be a computer-generated assassination. He'll be seen as the founder of their movement, underground, obeying to the symbol placed on the screen, Homeland Security, Limited Liability Corporation. The LLC will appear as if it's a trademark or maybe registered in some way. They won't understand. Maybe it'll have different significance or other initials, new names. Either way, function the same. Moral of the story. Don't allow the takeover. Rise up with a vengeance. Confront the police state. Liberate the Confederate States of America. Note from the commander, known as the chief. Revolutionary forces. Choose to join up? Then show up. Before May 23rd. 2019, preferably. There'll be other court dates. It's a preliminary hearing. Would appreciate the assistance. Should be found troubling, listener. Here in Mexico, roll it off as if it's in the same place. It starts right here. That's why we stop them at the southern border of Mexico, which Mexico is doing. We do that, and Mexico is doing. Who's we? The country of Mexico? Sounds as if so. There's another very troubling event there on those at the time of those statements. That statement, the action of the general. He retracted his hands from the table when was mentioned Mexico is doing that. Showed that the general feels, well, what it is to condition the viewer that the general is in control. The general has hands on the table and is of authority over who is making the statements, the U.S. president. Retracted hands at the time Mexico was mentioned means that the general who is in control isn't of that zone, and that's another country, Mexico. The general's hands were computer generated placed when mentioned at first Iowa. So what that tells us, listeners, as analysts, the USDIA programmer didn't have the general put hands on the table when mentioned was Idaho, but rather Iowa. So the general has control over the zone where exists Iowa and New Hampshire, though didn't put hands on the table for Idaho. He didn't choose the computer generated actions placed by the USDIA think tank. Psychiatrists, how to mess with the psyche of the population. Condition the public, accept that their nation is no more, about to be broke up, stripped of their citizenship, no longer have an identity as a U.S. citizen. The general U.S. public, them as a group, they're in a bad situation. They don't understand. Tick tock, tick tock. The time's run up. Stop with the inaction. It's time to go out and make something happen. Be part of history in the making. Liberate the Confederate States of America. The Alamo, placed as the capital. Freeze image. Hand placement of Dawn shows his reading statement from a brief. Official statement made right here in Mexico. Future statement will be country of America. As explained in the other paragraphs. Needed to see territory. Agreed to autonomous region of California. Oh, it's again. Let's open the clip and I'll take a look. 23 minutes 53 seconds. His hand movements. Dawn's computer generated reading from a script can't stay on the line, so places finger to the words and reads. Official document, official statement. Statement of Dawn that rolls along his statements that are going on there at 23 minutes 53 seconds. State of Dawn, that would be a fantastic thing, and think that is happening. Think it's never happened before. Never, nobody ever seen anything like it all of a sudden. Mexico's doing terrifically. They have to, because you've all seen, and I don't want to do this, it would be a very profitable situation. We're going to have to tariff the cars coming in from Mexico to the United States. And if that doesn't work, which it will, we'll close the border. Somebody said it will take a year. No, it won't. It will take a day. They wrote a lot of fake news. You I said a year. Well, the tariffs will work. Number one, but that will work, really work, is a closing of the border. We hope we don't have to do that, but I'll do it because ultimately the security of our nation is the most important thing. Analyst assessment. Oh, take note of the trickery. So, what's being announced is the border will be closed. The U.S. border with Mexico is going to be permanently closed or temporarily closed. Either way, announced as a temporary closure. The entire border, 2,000 miles and a multitude of commerce. How much commerce is lost each day with the closure? Shouldn't that be noted? That type of information made available, placed in the presentation for the listener to be able to further understand what that will do to the U.S. economy? That wall being paid for would be paid for again and over again after so many days of border closure? And what would almost certainly take place if that border were to be closed for more than an hour? Well, a stagnated U.S. economy, something they couldn't recover from. They, the U.S. citizen. The precise intention of the USDIA operators. They are conditioning the public to accept that they don't have a nation. They won't have a nation, and they're giving the reasons why. Well, Donald's announcing, and it's computer generated, placed by the USDIA, they're about to stagnate the economy. There's a huge debt owed. They're not debt free in the Yankee USA. What happens when a person who is in debt no longer can make the payment? Forfeiture of assets insisted upon by the creditor. Who owns most of that debt? Who holds that? That would be the country of China. What happens if they insist and no longer is continuous? The continuity nor the unity of the United States of America is intact. Meaning, under attack, they aren't the mighty force they were before. At least that's the front that they show. Because who's in control are putting forth this agenda, which is a farce, though the population is accepting what's being computer generated, presented, an agenda. And until they wake up, well, the code is there. What's going to happen? And it's in any moment, the U.S. government can usher in, well, a new era. There's a situation due to the crisis. Our border was overran, and there's the need for further security. What happened was Border Patrol with gang name took a hold of the zone. Oh, it's the western United States of America. So what's about to happen? First, it'll be declared sanctuary cities with a closed U.S.-Mexican border, and at the same time, China, higher tariffs on the goods. Yeah, there is a border. It's held by the United States of America, the north side of the border. The south side's held by the country of Mexico. That is an international border between two countries. The United States of America with Mexico. That border should not be termed our border, nor our southern border. The intention, every time that's heard, is to take away the country, the USA. Those who were part of the mismanagement, the incurment of a huge deficit, debt, aren't going to be held accountable. They're going to skedoodle where they built, with the taxpayer funds underground. That's where they'll be found. Bunker hunkers. Hunkering in the bunkers. The statement, it shows that the intention is Mexico will take over the western United States of America. Understand, listener, because they're conditioning the listener to accept that idea here. Mexico is doing what as we're standing in Mexico, and well, but wait, that's the Mexican government, and we aren't part of that if they're a U.S. citizen, nor represented by that entity. There's a rail system that runs up and down the West Coast. Yankee Sam never could drill through the Continental Ridge. Could, well, it would take too long and too much money. And they opted to do something different, so that's a couldn't. Mexico will hold those tunnels underground. They don't mind. Yankee Sam hold the entire West Coast. And whenever needs be, they'll reclaim. That's what they'll say. Because what's being prepared, the listeners being conditioned, is to accept that Mexico holds the West Coast. It might not be only above ground. There's a good chance that it'll be underground as well. And Mexico will feel as if they have arrived. No, it's by design. They're being allowed. It's in the code. 2435 through 2506. Stan May Dawn. And we're not even talking about the drugs. Massive amount of drugs that pours through, and it would have a tremendous impact. And we're going to be working on that. We've been working on that. We've done a tremendous job. Drugs coming into the country. If you look at some of the numbers, we're having a news conference next week at the White House. So on the impact that we've had between opioid and all the other problems, we have the drugs, different drugs, where we had 10, 15 years ago, much different, but also the drugs coming in through the border. We've had a great impact. Joseph, would you like to say a few words? All right, we're going to break that down. Briefly, feel how the mind, because we're going to need to cover this statement in the next episode. Rand has up the allotted 15 to 20 minutes. Make them short. Make it easy for people to pass around the information. Everything is U.S. copyrighted and being presented before the public, placed on the internet. Await that the people share. Pass around the information. Become informed. Feel how the mind shifts when mention is massive amount of drugs that pours through, and it would have a tremendous impact, and we're going to work on that. It's as if two different themes are being discussed. Massive amount of drugs pours through. Should say pours through the U.S. border, but it doesn't. It says, and pours through, and it would have a tremendous impact. What would? What's it? And where do the drugs pour through? Makes for confusion. And we're going to be working on that. Our one only God, He helps me do this rhyme line by line. I do give my thanks, along with gratitude, for our one only God. In the next episode, same statement will be assessed further. The statements of who's being assessed doesn't need to be mentioned. Gets mentioned way too much. The psychological operation being placed forth by the USDIA. As mentioned, I do give my thanks to our one only God. This is the Bigbossjock, momentarily signing off.